So I know you said I wasn't allowed to talk about Blizzard anymore, but
Ever again with one of the biggest gaming companies in the world. No more conversations. Continue.
So my topic is actually about Overwatch 2, which got announced at BlizzCon, and we all saw it coming. Because it leaked, and it leaked hard. I don't know. I'm not really sure how to approach this topic with Lugon because I was going to jump straight into it.
We can cover this. We'll just bring him when he gets back.
All right, so they released a story trailer for Overwatch 2, which was 8 minutes long.
Yeah.
And a gameplay trailer. Did you get a chance to watch that as well?
Yeah, I watched both of them. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I guess just what were your initial reactions to the story trailer? What'd you think of that? And what did you think of an 8-minute story trailer as an announcement for a game?
I'm gonna put at the top here that I find it. And I think a lot of other people, a lot of games journalists and critics have found it difficult to reconcile the two halves of the Blizzard coin at the moment. I'm gonna say that at the top because I find it difficult to like.
Let's talk about that at the top then. I was going to put that at the end, but
yeah, I find myself at odds like trying to talk about Blizzard products because I am actively boycotting them.
Yeah, I haven't played Overwatch since the Blitzchung incident.
I haven't either, and I don't plan on it. I just find myself at odds about like I want to be able to talk about Blizzard because I think their products like shape the industry and are really important to the industry. And if I'm being honest, like the trailer did a lot for me emotionally and just like, in terms of my connection to it. It's just the company that is the event around which it was released and around the company around which it was released is just kind of scummy. And so there's an ethical and kind of like a just pure entertainment divide in terms of the way I'm thinking about Blizzard right now, and I'm still actively trying to reconcile those two halves.
Yeah, that's fair. And I'm in the same boat of I am currently I am boycotting Blizzard at the moment. But I want to look at what's been put out there and appreciate the art that's been rendered by the people who may not necessarily hold the same values, even 100%. If at the end of the day I won't be buying that product.
And I think that's where I kind of come down. Like it's impossible to deny the artistry of like this trailer, and the Diablo 4 trailer was awesome. It was I don't know if you watched that. It was super moody and like super dark, had some awesome like horrific imagery in it. Getting back to those like kind of dark, gory Diablo roots of Diablo 2. But like this trailer, I watched it. First of all, Overwatch at this point has I feel like it's kind of earned the right to like reveal itself with an 8-minute long story trailer because people love these characters. People love the small snippets of story we've gotten from their animated shorts. Like I'd love for them to release like a Blu-ray set, but even just like a downloadable set of like these shorts, like how Pixar will occasionally release a series of short films that they screen before their films. But like the Overwatch 2 trailer, I'm not afraid to admit that I teared up.
I did too. And I was like, why am I so connected to this? This is why I wanted to talk about it.
Exactly. I found myself tearing up because part of it is just the amount of time I've sunk into that world and those characters. Even if like it's not a story-based game, like I hear those voices in my head. I can hear them saying things. I know the bonds between them, not as well as some lore hunters, but well enough to understand the characters. And like, I'm a sucker for any scenario where the characters you love seem down and out, and then a friendly force swoops in to save the day. It's the reason like I still tear up over Helm's Deep when I watch that sequence in the second Lord of the Rings movie. I am just a sucker for those sequences, and this trailer delivered on that like in spades and with style. And like we'll probably talk about like all the things that the trailer also reveals in terms of gameplay wise. but like it's impossible to deny the artistry that went into making this.
So, Luke, welcome back. The things we covered are the difficulty in reconciling our feelings about Blizzard with our feelings about Overwatch 2, and even specifically the trailer reveals themselves. And we are currently talking about the trailer. We had a bonding moment over admitting that we both teared up over this trailer a little bit. And, the strange, like, why was this trailer so emotionally impactful on me?
Yeah, it's hard. It's like Thanksgiving. It's like going home for Thanksgiving. You know, it's like, man, I love the food. I love spending time with my family. But we got this uncle over here who just believes some shitty things about the world and talks about them a lot. And it just kind of ruins it. You know? Like, that's Blizzard right now for me.
And that uncle happens to own the house that you're Thanksgiving in.
Yeah, he controls the television. Like, you know, he's just and it really, really sucks because Overwatch has been such a big part of my gaming life this entire generation. Well, since the release of Overwatch for the last 3 years, like, and I have a lot of fond memories and great stories attached to Overwatch, and it's hard to reconcile those things because I want to be principled. I want to stand my ground, but I also recognize that this is an experience I'm been alive for almost 30 years, and there's not another game that's really connected with me in the way that Overwatch has. And so that's why I'm kind of like, look, with the response at BlizzCon, with Jay Allen Brack, you know, and his non-apology at the beginning of the event, I was like, this is my opportunity to just move on from this. I know who you are. I am going to there are decisions I will have to make based off of that knowledge, but this isn't changing. Like, there's no conversation I can have over this turkey leg with my uncle that's going to change his mind on the shitty thing that he believes, but doesn't mean I'm going to stop coming to his house for Thanksgiving because there's so much else here that I cherish, right? The only difference is that my uncle is profiting off of me and in this scenario as well. But
he charges everyone in your family $60 to show up, and you all pay.
Yeah, microtransactions for the stuffing as well. So I'm interested to hear what you guys think about it when I go back to listen. But in terms of the story trailer, it was cool. I'm not I'm not one of those guys who's like, all right, well, I really need to know about Zen. It's been 3 years. We have no lore on Zen. Like, yeah, I get people that are like that, but I'm just not like that.
So I'm not like an after the lore thing. Like, Snoke got cut in half and died, and I don't know where he. I don't care if I ever do. But but what this trailer, like the Overwatch shorts, the Overwatch trailers, like they do such a great job of short storytelling. Mm-hmm. Like they tell you so much about these characters in so little time. They produce these deeply emotional moments with just the quickness of it. I'm so impressed by it. Mm-hmm. Gaming trailers, like, they excite me, but they never really impact me. The only exception to that was the Halo trailers back in the day, and that's what I felt like watching this short. I felt like I was back in high school watching the Halo 3 Believe trailers. And I got a bit misty-eyed at one point. I just hats off to the people that make these things, because they do a great job with this stuff.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to see them, like, you know, they've produced comic books. I'd love to see like a full-on animated show or an animated movie in this universe. Like, that kind of thing would be really interesting to me.
I mean, we talked about Riot entering into the world of animation. I'm still surprised that Blizzard hasn't.
Yeah,
because they have. I mean, these things are incredible. They are there's just you're right. The art in it is not just the animation and the voice acting, but the actual art of telling like a pretty compelling story within the span of 4 to 8 minutes. That's tough to do in any medium, let alone in a medium and a game where the story and the lore is not like the focus. Like, again, I don't know much about the lore of Overwatch other than what is kind of like spotlighted in the game and like kind of what I read about occasionally online when people get upset about Soldier 76 being announced as a gay character. But like
only in North America though, not in China.
True. We wouldn't want to upset them.
Is that
that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, Larry. The uncle's belief system just keeps going.
Which, when you really think about it, doesn't actually mean anything. Like,
yeah.
But I still find myself drawn in by this. I think the brief glimpses of the world we get are awesome, and I think this one is longer than most of their other shorts, for obvious reasons. So I found it really compelling.
And telling so much story, like you could be completely unfamiliar with Overwatch and still piece together everything from this short. And I love the story. It's basically the Avengers Hero Registration Act story in a nutshell. You had these people, they saved the world from this calamity, and then they were outlawed and not allowed to work together anymore. They're all like heartbroken and separated, but things have gotten so bad that here they are. They're willing to step up and risk it all to save the world again. And that story, like, it was a really compelling story. Like seeing this handful of characters like willing to just lay their lives down for people they didn't know, and then their friends swoop in and don't let them die alone, and they all stand up. And man, it got me going, my dudes.
Yeah. It's interesting with this medium as well, like where Overwatch and League and are in such a spot where they need to educate people about these games that don't play these games in order to grow their esports scene. Not to bring the conversation completely back here, but an extended animated series around these characters and their abilities and what they're able to do, and figuring out how to work in, like with Overwatch, there's a billion different game modes, right? Like how to pull those into those, like it's an education opportunity for people who don't necessarily play the game but are maybe interested in watching a cool animated series about it, on how your esports work.
The last thing I want to say on the topic of the video and why I found it so emotionally compelling, before we move on talking about the gameplay itself, is I sat and I thought for a long time about why I felt like I was watching trailers.
Like you were watching what? You cut out there.
The Halo 3 Believe trailers. And so, anyone listening, I recognize that I'm an old. And so if you're a young person and you don't know what I'm talking about, just get on the YouTubes. You go to http://www.youtube.com and you search Halo 3 Believe. Like those trailers,
it's in the little search bar right at the top.
They were so well done, and they're worth going back and revisiting. This fantastic, like, people talking about the war with the Covenant after the fact, and the sacrifice that Master Chief had made. And I think the reason that hit me so hard and this hit me so hard is in gaming, there's just so much like gritty and dark, and even the heroes are like, they're just these tough guys, and there's not a lot of optimism and like genuine heroism, and to see those things on display, like I don't know, I just I'm a sucker for that kind of thing. We live in a world that's not it's not very optimistic. And when I can get a dose of optimism and people like willing to genuinely stand up and do the right thing, even if it's going to cost them, like I love that. That's the kind of story I want.
Yeah, and it strikes the right. They've always managed to strike the right tone of not being too sappy or saccharine, because I feel like boundless optimism can oftentimes bleed over into that. But they've managed to make it feel earnest, even if it obviously is in the service of earning money, which is no small feat. And they did it again here.
Yeah. So yeah, I've ranted about the trailer and how much I enjoyed it quite enough. So we can move on to the gameplay. Cody watched the gameplay trailer. Did you get to watch that, Luke?
Yeah.
Of course he did.
You're talking about the PvE gameplay trailer, right?
Yeah. So first off, is PvE even something that you're interested in? Is that something the two of you are going to be playing? If you were to buy this game, is this something that you would be playing?
Nah, dog. It's not why I play Overwatch. Like, they've done a lot of PvE events that I just don't care about. Like, I think I did one of the like anniversary missions, maybe the very first one. Like, it's just it's never something I've clamored for. And all of this talk about let's get a campaign mode in this game, like, it's just not been something that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
The PvE modes they've done in the past haven't exactly hit home for me, mostly just because I find that just becomes kind of mindless after a while. It's like a great way to, if I want to take a break in between a PvP match, to go to PvE. But I mean, this does interest me just because there are story elements to it, and so I'd be inclined to play through it more for the narrative elements than for the actual PvE elements, because it seems like it even playing with you guys on the Halloween events, it just becomes super easy after a while. If you're playing on normal, obviously you can always jack it up to the next level of difficulty, but I hope they kind of fine-tune PvE if it becomes a more meaningful part of the game in these campaign sections.
Yeah. For me, I used to play so many single player games, so many campaign driven games, and just in the last 5 years or so, I've just gotten to where I just don't spend a lot of time on that type of game. Halo is kind of the exception, but this one really interests me for that same purpose. If they can impact me this deeply with an 8-minute trailer, what I want to see what they can do with a campaign's worth of storytelling. I've got high hopes that it can be a really good story, and so it really interests me for that purpose. Because I agree, Cody. Although I have enjoyed the PvE events probably more than the two of you, I've played those quite a bit. They are not the most mechanically satisfying gaming experiences. It's really easy to just find the how do I cheese my way through this rather than really feeling like I've accomplished anything.
I also hope that I hope that the campaign isn't just, I mean, on some level it will be, but I hope it's not just a way to like teach people how to play the competitive. I do hope it can kind of that's kind of my worry. I hope that the mission design is actually somewhat interesting to justify having a campaign mode, as opposed to just like, oh, this is suddenly a payload mission. Oh, this is suddenly a control point mission. Like, I want there to be meaningful mission design in these things. I just don't know how much they're investing in this. It seems like that's a point of emphasis because people have been demanding it, and so I hope they invest kind of like the creativity they have invested in the competitive, but I don't know.
Well, I saw something earlier about where Kaplan said something along the lines of like, the PvE we're developing for Overwatch 2 is the reason that we haven't innovated a lot with our other events, because we're putting all of that energy and attention onto that. So I'm not worried about it for that reason. I'm also not worried about that concern because there are so many different gameplay elements that are a part of the PvE that are not going to be brought over into the competitive mode, in terms of leveling up your skills, being able to combine, like creating new like synergies between characters, like in the short where like Reinhardt and Brigitte stand together and make a bigger shield, where you combine Mei's ult with Tracer's ult to create like an explosive ice shard blast. Like, those things aren't going to make their way over to PvP, so I don't think it'll be really like a training mode for it, just because you'd be training people to use things that aren't going to be available for them.
Yeah.
It's less that and more like, here's how you play payload. Here's how you play control point.
It kind of like how fighting games do that shit of like, all right, well, here's our cast of characters, and now, all right, down to this 2D view, fight.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about, and I probably shouldn't be, because I think as developers, Blizzard have proven themselves to like invest the resources to make these things meaningful. I just don't have I didn't watch. I watched a little bit of the gameplay, like the full mission gameplay, because they did release a full mission that people could play at BlizzCon. I watched a little bit of it, but I still don't have a concrete idea of like how the scope of the campaign, I guess. And we'll get more of an idea of that movie, but just some concerns.
So with everything that you've seen, what from the gameplay was most exciting? Was there anything besides what you've mentioned already? So let's just kind of wrap this up, I guess. Hit whatever features we haven't hit, and whether those were really exciting or kind of worrisome.
Yeah, the thing I'm most excited about is that a lot of this isn't coming over to the competitive side. And I mean that like, I'm not saying that it's kind of joking that I'm saying that, but I'm legitimately, I think in order for esports to succeed and competitive gaming to succeed, there needs to be a level of consistency with the product. And some of the things that were being talked about in terms of leveling up characters and your abilities get stronger as you're going throughout the game, and you can invest more resources into making this character strong. I was like, this is going to change the landscape of the competitive side of the game that people have thousands of hours in at this point, and there's an entire league built around this, and there's already, Overwatch is already going to fuck up whatever transition is going to be required to get to this, because there is a new competitive mode. I think it's called Push. It's like a tug of war mode that's going to be in it. They're going to fuck that up already, so I'm just glad that there's not even more things for them to fuck up in terms of the competitive side of it. But similarly on the competitive side, I'm glad that they're giving all these updates to Overwatch 1 users as well, in order to not split up the community. I think that's an amazing decision. I think it's incredibly important for the scene moving forward, especially because there are people like me who just don't give a shit about the PvE and would feel slighted if it was like, all right, well, you got to come buy Overwatch 2 to get a very, very similar competitive experience. And then also being able to bring over your skins and your other customization items, I think is really cool too.
With that particular point in mind, do you fall into the camp of feeling like calling this a sequel was not the most sensible thing to do? Like, isn't this just an expansion?
What does sequel even mean anymore?
The second iteration of. I'm kidding. I know what you meant.
Like I think the definition of sequel is changing so dramatically in the gaming space. I mean, you think about Fortnite Chapter 2. Like, I think there are people at Epic that consider this to be like the sequel, and I think that in some ways they talk about it as a sequel. It's a new map, the overhauled mechanics, and the adding of the long requested bots into the matches. Like Destiny has done a lot of insane things with their IP in the last couple of years, not just in the massive expansions that they released for it, but hey, we're going to make a whole free-to-play version of this that is pretty much the base game, but there's some differentiation within it. Like, I just think that definition of sequel is so different and just changing, and is it confusing? Maybe. Is it a mistake? I don't necessarily think so. Yeah, it's only a mistake in the amount that it got people worried.
Yeah, I think, with Overwatch, people also resent it because up until this point, they've been able to play everything for free. Not for free, but they've been able to pay, after paying the $60, they just get everything. So they've kind of been conditioned to think of it that way. I don't really have qualms about calling it a sequel. People have had the same complaint about Destiny 2. I think people's concept, especially with live service games. It just kind of throws everything into whack.
Yeah,
I don't have any concerns about that. I the things I'm excited for are I do actually I if in the PV, I like the idea of being able to upgrade your characters and like unlock kind of special little talents. Bringing a little bit more RPG of Blizzard's RPG pedigree into Overwatch is interesting and could yield interesting results in the PV. Obviously, I wouldn't want to see that transfer into PvP because that presents absolutely bonkers balancing challenges and kind of destroys the competitive edge to it.
I mean, at least they've perfected that already.
Yeah, exactly. Which Jeff Kaplan wisely tipped his hat to during the presentation.
Dude, Kaplan was awesome. He was like, I'm going to be honest, guys. I totally forgot what I came up here to talk about.
Joked about the leaks. Yeah. I do like Jeff Kaplan. But as many caveats as I said about the PV, I think it'd be great to be able to play something non-competitive with people in Overwatch. Just hop on that because I do, like you, Larry. I do miss like the campaign emphasis of online games. And so I think it'd be great to have that in Overwatch. I'm also, I guess this falls under this category, but I'm looking forward to the new character. What's her name? Sojourn.
Mm-hmm.
Sojourn.
Yeah.
We didn't really get to see much of her, but I really like the concept of what she appears to be doing, and to have a black woman in Overwatch, it finally is awesome. People have been asking for that for a long time. So I think there's enough to get me excited and feel like it is a sequel, I guess, if we want to put it in those terms.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try to touch on all of the stuff you guys mentioned. But I'm with you, Luke. I'm glad that the competitors are separate. And I am glad that I'm happy to see that stuff in the PvE, but it is right and good not to mix those things together. As far as calling it a sequel goes, like I don't like it, but I don't care enough about it to get angry about it. Like my thought was, you called the first thing Overwatch Origins Edition, so just call this Overwatch something else, and that just makes more sense to my brain in the way that I think. But at the end of the day, calling it Overwatch 2 isn't. Yeah,
Overwatch Odyssey.
Calling it Overwatch 2 isn't going to keep me from buying it. Blizzard's crappy policies are.
Truth.
I look forward to playing the story. And it's worth noting that they showed several characters that have been the next Overwatch character at some point. I'm blanking on the android thing's name.
Is it Ava or something like that?
I think so. So you have her. You have the bad guy Zenyatta.
Oh yeah,
and he's rumored to be like a summoner type character. So I'm kind of hoping that when this thing drops, we're gonna get like a few characters thrown into the mix, but I'm doubtful about that because of how difficult it is to balance things when they just drop one character at a time.
I was really surprised how front and center that robot character, the flying one, was to the marketing. Like she was a prominent part of the story trailer. Obviously, she was in McCree's little short, but it got to the point where I'm like, did they release her as a character and I just haven't played the game in that long? Because she was such a prominent part. So obviously she's going to be a big part of the franchise moving forward.
Yeah. There are two things that concern me. One is
it's Echo.
The new game. Yeah, it is Echo. You're right.
I was like, I know it's not. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's not Ava, but there's a League character named Echo too, so I wasn't sure.
There's a Siege character named Echo as well.
There's an Echo the Dolphin character named Echo also.
Yeah, that game is about aliens abducting your family, and I just thought it was about. I thought it was a fucking swimming simulator when I was a kid.
Thought I was just eating some fish until I got bored and went into the orthodontist.
Wait, did your orthodontist have a Sega Genesis too?
Yes.
Dude, mine did too. You'd go there and he'd be like, all right, before I torture your mouth, you can play Street Fighter.
Well, as you can tell, I didn't actually get to go into the orthodontist. My sister did. We could only afford one pair of braces, and she needed them.
We flipped a coin.
What was I talking about? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I derailed you.
The new game mode push. That's a competitive game mode, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah. It'll be in the Overwatch League.
Turns controlling
Team Fortress 2 had that.
Yeah. It didn't excite me. It just felt too similar to the game modes that already exist. Like it's basically another version of pushing the payload. Just instead of taking turns doing it, you're kind of tug of war in the thing. I would have liked to.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I would have liked to see something different, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that works competitively because it seems like a who can win like 5 fights in a row kind of thing in order to win. And that kind of snowballing isn't happening a ton in the professional side of things. I don't know. I've seen more in action.
So that was one thing that concerned me, and then the other thing that how much of the PvE stuff seemed to be occurring in map space that we've already seen. That is the one thing that gives me doubts about the quality of the PvE product we're going to see. But
they might want to hold stuff off until later.
Yeah, that was my thought. I hope that's the case, and it's not just a Halo Reach Spartan Ops. As much as I loved Spartan Ops, they recycled the same 3 or 4 maps for 12 to 15 missions. So yeah, all in all, like killer announcement. Great way to make the announcement. If I compartmentalize and I don't think about the uncle Thanksgiving dinner, like I appreciate this thing for what it is. I appreciate the product that they're producing with Overwatch. And again, the quality of those shorts just wonderful. You guys have any closing thoughts on this?
No, not really. All
right.
I was just very pleased.
And such a focus on May, good choice, because May is Bay.
That's true. Very true.